Hello there. Thank you for joining us on the Tuesday edition of Journalists Hangout. I am Kemi Foladiemo. Today on the program, we discuss the internal wranglings between APGA's 15-year reign in Anambra State as the APC, the PDP and YPP plan big for the November the 6th governorship election. Plus, gunmen hijack 3 buses, abduct 60 passengers in Sokoto. And later on the show, Mr. Fashola visits Nigeria-Cameroon 1.5-kilometer border bridge at Cross River State. Says it will facilitate free trade. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Sam Ibemere. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And welcome to you all out there. Journalists Hangout starts now. It's exactly 100 days to the November governorship election in Anambra State. But there is a cloud of uncertainty over candidates of the major political parties contesting the poll. Internal wranglings are threatening the 15-year reign of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, in the state, as other parties like the All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party, and the Young Progressive Party are strategizing to take over the state. What seemed like a 3-horse race now depends on court verdicts for the real gladiators to emerge. And that's how we begin the program this evening. BKO, the courts, and of course it's almost difficult to keep track of the drama in and out of the courts. But for you now, what are the core points as the countdown thickens, so to speak, now to the November election?
Yes, the Anambra governorship election is really in play. All the parties fancy their chances of winning. Many people believe that the time has come to kick the APGA out of power. You know, the APGA was seen from the off as the party that Ikemba Ojukwu endorsed. And they produced 2 governors who spent 8 years in office, 8 years each in office. Governor Peter Ume came in on the platform of APGA, spent 8 years, succeeded by Ebiano, who also is going to have successfully spent 8 years by March next year. So now elections in that state have always been competitive. You find a situation in which the PDP will dominate the National Assembly election and the presidential election, but the House of Assembly and the governorship, they won't be able to dominate. So this time around, the PDP thinks that it is good to go, that this is the best time to clinch the governorship. And because of the crisis within the APGA, a lot of them think that, a lot of these parties think that this is their best chance, because the truth is there are 2 factions. The faction supported by the NWC of the PDP, of the APGA, and another faction. And there are 2 court cases, 2 judgments by 2 courts of concurrent jurisdiction. One was obtained far away in Jigawa State. You wonder why an individual will go all the way to Jigawa State to get a judgment, that will render the earlier judgment in favor of the Oye-led faction of the APGA a nullity. But that's the situation. And that same situation is what you see in the PDP
and the APC,
as well as the APC is a little. It's a situation that is much more definitive. But that is what you see in the PDP, where Ugochukwu Uba, the elder brother of the Uba brothers, wants to gazump Valentine Ozigbo's position as the candidate of the faction backed by the governor of Anambra State. So it's I said by the governor of Anambra State. Valentine Ozigbo is it is his faction that the NWC of the PDP supports.
Secondos.
Yes. So we don't know how the courts will resolve this matter. The mainstream faction of APGA, it was Chasoludo that emerged, from their primaries held on June 19. Now, that group is being challenged by a rival faction that believes that whatever decisions that were reached by the National Working Committee of the APGA that it does not believe was properly constituted must be rendered a nullity. So that is where they are. So people believe now that if APGA does not put its house in order, it is possible that what happened in Zamfara or Bayelsa State may happen to them. There are chances of keeping that state is in the balance, because no one knows how these matters will be resolved by the courts.
Well, that said, Sam, what's your take about the wranglings within APGA itself?
Okay, to be specific about APGA, just like every other political party in the country, it speaks to the challenge of internal cohesion. It simply tells you that there are resentments, within the party. There are sections, of the ruling party in Anambra State that don't feel, that they're not being carried along, and that is why you have this, officials within the party. So it's a signal that the party has cohesion issues. Secondly, it also speaks to the fact that the issue of internal democracy within the political parties still remains one, that is yet to be resolved, not just in APGA, but in most political parties across the country. If you look at PDP at the national level, you have the same challenge. APC, you still have the same challenge. So as far as APGA is concerned, it just tells you that there's a lot of work to do internally, and if these issues are not amicably resolved, you're likely to have, it's likely to affect their chances in the forthcoming elections. But I would always say that it's always nice to have issues like this, sorted out at the court, so that we can, deepen our institutions, as it were. Because if these cases are not, tested at the courts, you wouldn't know what the outcomes, will be. So Anambra indeed presents an interesting case, and it has always been like that, over the years. But what I think makes the November 6th elections even much more interesting is the fact that it's not only just been deeply contested, it's also the way it is because there seems to be a gentleman's agreement that the position should be zoned to Anambra South. The North has had its share, the Central has had its share. So the South is where the generality of the people feel power should swing to. But it's not even as clear as that, because even within Anambra South, you still have the power blocks. You have the old Agwata Union, you have the Newi block, where Ifeanyi Uba dominates, and then you have Newi. So even within the South, it doesn't present a clear case, because the Ubas, as represented in PDP, in APC, and APGA, it's going to be a very hotly contested election. So whoever picks the ticket at the end of the day, after the courts, decide, will then have to battle it out with their brothers in Anambra South.
All right, let's now bring in the former national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, Senator Victor Ume. It's good to have you join us. He joins us from our Abuja studio for more discussion, especially on the APGA controversy. Thank you very much for joining us at this time, Senator Ume. But where do you stand in the infighting in APGA itself between Mrs. Oye and Mr. Okeke? All right, we'll try to reconnect with APGA's former national chairman, Senator Victor Ume. In the meantime, let's also look at, now that the attention has shifted to the courts, BKO, of course it's been said, if you look at the situation in the just concluded in the past general election in 2019, well, I'm told now that Senator Ume is back with us.
Of APGA, starting from Ojukwu to when Obi became governor, to when Obiano became governor. And I am happy to say that what you have tried to talk about is something I've been with from the beginning, from the founding of APGA. And when Ojukwu was leader of the party, I was the national chairman of the party for 5 years. And we saw Obi become governor through our struggles with the party. And then through my chairmanship, Obiano came on board as governor and serving out his tenure now. From what you have said, it's very disgusting that you have now to describe APGA as a party that is factionalized. Now talking about Victor Ume faction and UKK faction. I want to say without any fear of contradiction that APGA has no faction. What you people see in the media and what people hold them out to be is not the correct thing. Before you can say that a party is factionalized, that party will be divided from the top to the bottom. National Working Committee will be parallel. The state chairman will be parallel. In other words, each group will have a National Working Committee of its own. The other group, each group will also have 36 state chairmen across the country. And Anambra State, for example, where the governorship election is coming, each group will also have state structure of the party in Anambra State. But unfortunately, that is not the case. We have only one APGA in operation in Nigeria, and that is the APGA that is being led by Chief Victor Ume as chairman, Willie Obiano as leader of the party, Governor Willie Obiano as leader of the party, Labram Marco as national secretary, with all the officers. If you come down to Anambra State, only this very group has a statewide structure, state executive, local government party executive, ward executive. The Judo KK you are calling to be leading a faction in APGA has nobody in Anambra State, no party structure, no executive at the state level. He has nobody at the local government level. He has nobody at the ward level. Victor Ume's led APGA has a board of trustees, which is functioning. It also has members of the National Assembly, members of the State House of Assembly, and the governor of Anambra State, the incumbent governor of Anambra State, being with that leadership. So when you look at it from that perspective, you will agree with me that one is the party, the other one is a fiction, something that is being put out for people to think that they are existing. So there's no such thing. Both in law and in operation, the other group does not exist.
Can you go down memory lane and tell us how did this whole problem begin, that we had an Okeke filing court cases against his home party. How did we get here?
Yes, that's what I said. I don't even know him. I've been a member of APGA from 2002, from when it was registered. I was the party's first national vice chairman, Southeast. I was its national treasurer. I was national chairman for 10 years. And I'm here sitting, talking with you. I have never met this Okeke anywhere in my life. I don't know him. Even if he's standing here now, I can't identify him. So he's somebody that came up on the 15th of June, 2021, for the first time. That was when he gathered with some people in Abuja here and announced a suspension of one Edozie Ndoko, who he said he was his deputy national chairman for South, and then said that he had a NEC meeting that appointed him acting national chairman of APGA. On 15th of June, that's when he surfaced. APGA that has been operating since 2002 with a line of succession from Chekwa Sokoto. I was with him in the same executive. From him, I took over. Then, after my tenure, 2 terms in office, we had a convention where Victor Ume was elected the national chairman of APGA, alongside his executives, including Labra Mako, the national secretary. When they served out the first tenure, in 2019, they conducted another convention, because every 4 years, you elect officers of the party. Apart from being in the APGA constitution, it's also in the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So in that convention, they wrote INEC and notified them of the coming convention of APGA to elect new officers, for 31st of May, 2019. They gave them the venue of that convention to be Oka, and it will be in Oka and at Professor Dora Akunyi Women Development Center. Stated the time. That is what the Electoral Act requires the party to do, according to Section 85 of the Electoral Act. On that day, the party had the convention as notified to INEC, and INEC was in attendance at that convention, monitored the convention, and saw that the officers of the party, new people were elected, some people were re-elected. Chivoye was re-elected as national chairman. Labran Mako was re-elected as national secretary, with others, And these are people who took over from me in 2015, So since then, they've been leading the party as National Work Committee members of APGA. And just last year, 2020, around April, somebody challenged Victor Ume's executive at the High Court of Anambra State, challenged the convention. After hearing and taking into considerations all the facts available to the High Court in Anambra State, the court delivered a final judgment, affirmed Victor Ume and Labra Mako as national chairman and national secretary respectively, along with their other national officers. That judgment was delivered on 18th November 2020. That judgment has not been appealed against. And like I said, INEC monitored the said convention and produced a report of that convention. That report is here with me from INEC. You can see it here. Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA, National Convention Report, held on the 31st of May, 2019 in Anambra State. That's the report here. INEC produced it. And from there, they took away the list of officers of APGA that were elected at that convention, took it to Abuja, and INEC approved this report, because when they send monitors, they bring their report, INEC will deliberate on the report as a commission and approve it. They approved the report and listed all the officers elected by APGA at that convention as national officers of APGA.
Okay.
So but there is even another
in the list of
Senator Ume, there's even another gentleman involved in the drama. Then, there is also Honorable Umeoji that INEC has now recognized as the party's true candidate. What's your response to that?
Even if it's temporary.
Well, that is what the foundation we're laying, because if you are not a lawful leadership of a party, you cannot nominate a candidate for that party to contest any election. it is not possible. Having established that Chief Victor Ume and his executive are serving their second term in office and validly elected through the National Convention of the party, and INEC has stated unequivocally, at least on the 25th of June 2021, in a program I did with National Commissioner for Information and Voter Education of INEC, Barrister Festus Okoye. He admitted on television, national television channels, that APGA has no faction, and that in the record of INEC, Victor Ume remains the national chairman, Labra Mako remains the national secretary, along with the other officers of the party. 25th of June this year. So you can imagine.
What steps are you taking?
15th of July. 15th of July.
Senator, what steps are you taking?
They were served a court order
to resolve it
from Jigawa High Court, sitting in Berinin Kudu.
Yes, what steps are you taking? What steps are you taking to get that judgment, that order of the court in Jigawa State, to set it aside and affirm Professor Soludo as the candidate of your party? What steps are you taking now? Because time is of essence, the election is getting close.
Yes, now this thing just happened. We're already in the Court of Appeal, Kano Division, to appeal against the judgment of the Jigawa High Court. A court in Berinin Kudu ordered INEC to do certain things in respect of an election that will take place in Anambra State. And that judgment we are talking about, Babajide, is very funny. Where somebody claimed that he was elected deputy national chairman not in a Dozie Njoko faction of APGA. In a purported convention they said they held in Owerri on the 31st of May 2019. When I have told you now that APGA told INEC they will hold their convention in Oka, in writing, and some people in my letter said they held the convention in Owerri. INEC didn't know them, and for these 2 years, INEC has refused to recognize that Edozie Njoko as having emerged through any convention of APGA. Now, somebody went to Jigawa and said he was that same Edozie Njoko's deputy, and that along the line they quarreled and they suspended the Edozie Njoko. That the NEC met, the one I was telling you about, on 15th of December, saying that they have appointed him, Jude Okeke, acting national chairman of APGA. And this was what they presented to the court in Jigawa. APGA was not a party in the suit. Victor Ume was not a party in the suit. And they proceeded to enter judgment against people who are not known to INEC as officers of APGA at any material time, and said INEC should not deal with the fellow. That's how they came up. And INEC now said, because they've been ordered to recognize him as acting national chairman.
All right, Senator Ume, let me put you on hold. We have to take a crucial break at this point. Kindly hold on to your thoughts. We will continue this conversation right after this break. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. It's Journalist Hangout showing on TVC News, and we still have Senator Victor Ume with us, the former national chairman of APGA, even as, of course, the countdown continues to the November the 6th governorship election in the state. Senator Ume, there has been calls from the ADC party that on account of this impasse, so to speak, parties like yours be disenfranchised from the polls, quoting bad leadership and gross indiscipline. What is your response to people calling for the disenfranchisement of your party in the polls?
I didn't get you. Did you say APC?
ADC. ADC.
You are calling for the disqualification of your party.
I did what?
That they are calling for the disqualification of your party on account of all of these
issues that are not yet resolved.
What is their ground to call for disqualification of APGA? That is that they are joking. ADC has just nominated somebody who who did not pass the screening of APGA to contest the primary, Mr. Akachu Nwankpo. So he has crossed over to ADC, and they've presented him as their candidate. The way he will become governor will not be by asking, who is he asking to disqualify APGA? That is a baseless statement. And I do not want to dwell on tantrums being thrown by people who are looking for something. I'm more interested in streamlining the situation in APGA so that the Nigerian public will know the truth and then follow the truth. Because all the time, when people come out and create confusion, it will become the trending news across Nigeria, both on social media and even on televisions. If they have not succeeded, they have succeeded in telling you that there are factions in APGA when there is no such thing. And I was trying to tell you how Jude Okeke emerged in the scene. I said he went to Jigawa High Court and claimed that he was deputy to Edozie Njoko, having emerged with him at the purported National Convention of APGA, which they said they conducted in Owerri in 2019, May 31st precisely. And I was telling you that there was no such convention outside the one that held in Oka in Anambra State, as duly held by the leadership of Victor Ume and Malabran Mako of APGA. And Governor Obiano, who was our leader, party leader too. So when he made that frivolous claim, concealed fraudulent.
We thank you very kindly, Senator Victor Ume, the former national chairman of APGA. You have been really magnanimous in your responses to our inquiries on the APGA situation. Thank you indeed. We move on now to other issues on our lineup on the program today. Security. From Niger to Kaduna to Kebbi states, the spotlight on kidnapping has shifted to Sokoto. About 60 passengers traveling from Sokoto to Kano have been abducted by bandits while traveling in Sokoto State Transport Authority buses along the Sokoto-Gusau highway. And while the transport agency stated that they are still compiling the manifest of passengers to know the exact number of those in the vehicles, one of the motorists who narrowly escaped the abduction, Mohammed Yusuf, says the bandits blocked the road and kidnapped all the passengers in the 3 buses. Sami Bemere, what do you make of this? Once again, this is yet another case, but the number surely stands out. 60 passengers reportedly abducted, and there's even been some form of confirmation from the GM of the Sokoto State Transport Agency, Yahuza Chika, is confirmed to have said one of the vehicles in that fleet in the company was also involved in the attack.
And that's a development. You know, he talked about 60. We have had records of double that, you know, in the case of students who have been abducted across most parts of the northwest and north central Nigeria. It's very sad, and like I've always said here, you know, it just makes us some kind of a laughing stock before the rest of the world. Abductions, if you like, kidnapping, have become a very terrible industry. You know, guys are making a living out of it. So once they have an opportunity, they just go out there, pick, you know, fellow citizens and ask for ransom. It's a very dangerous trend, and it's compounded by the fact that these guys are getting more daring by the day, including the very recent example of even taking down, you know, a military aircraft that had gone after them. Is a very sad development. And so when I heard the governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, speak about, you know, a concerted effort on the part of governors in northern Nigeria, you know, to take on this issue once and for all, it gave me some hope, and I want to believe that that strategy, you know, would work, because when he spoke about shutting down, you know, schools in Kaduna State, you know, in particular, for the sole purpose of, you know, taking on the bandits or the kidnappers, you know, once and for all, it made me feel that probably they have some sort of joker up their sleeves. We would like to see how that card is played, you know, in the coming weeks. But this is a huge embarrassment, not just to the government of Sokoto State, but to the entire country. Before the rest of the world, I'm sure we have become a very, a laughingstock. You could say that this is not anywhere close to what is probably happening elsewhere, but all the signals are there. Increasingly anarchy is taking over the entire country, and these are short steps towards a failed state. You might not want to describe the country as a failed state, but if you look at specific states in northern Nigeria, they won't be too far from being described as failed states, especially in states where more than half of the local governments in the entire state under the control of bandits, including extracting taxes from citizens before they can go to the farm or before they can earn a living. Kaduna is one. Even the government itself painted that terrible scenario. In Niger State, the same thing. More than half of the local governments in these two states that I've talked about are under the control of bandits. How else do you describe, a failed state? It's very disturbing. And what is even much more disturbing is the fact that we seem to have, a laid-back, approach to it. We hope that the coming of the Tucanos and other, equipment that we want to put in the care of our military will do some job. But we need strategy. We need concerted efforts to deal with this, national embarrassment.
BK, this must surely be frustrating, but how do you react to Sam's position on this?
Yes, the bandits are becoming creative. They vary their tactics. We seem to think that they are dumb people, that they don't have a plan. But we have seen that they take their time, they plan, they monitor the movement of troops, and where you constantly bombard them in an area, they leave that area and face somewhere else. For some time now, we've not been reading the kind of stories that we used to read about the Kaduna-Abuja highway. Clearly, they've moved to other areas. They've moved to Zaria-Funtua Road. They've moved to Gusau-Funtua Road. They've moved now to Sokoto-Gusau Road. Many people who traveled for Salah in these areas were kidnapped. A lot of those stories don't even get published in the papers. So these three routes, they have simply been harassing road travelers on those routes consistently in the last couple of months. And there is a need to focus on those areas and ensure that we put an end to the threat that this constitutes to travelers. You can imagine the distance between two states in the northwest, Sokoto and Zamfara. For many people, because there is no airport in Zamfara, for example, they would like to travel from Sokoto. Once they come down Sokoto, which used to be in the same state with Zamfara, in any case, they will now drive down to Gusau, the state capital. These people have now formed the habit of waiting for them on that road. We've been reading consistently, and they operate anytime. It's not like the Kaduna Road where people will tell you that don't travel until around 1 or so. Don't go too early. These ones will operate very early, they will operate late, they will operate at midday.
Not just when it's deserted.
Yes. So, and they operate close to forest. They don't operate very close to an urban center because they use motorbikes. They want to get away straight into the forest, and when they kidnap people, they move them straight into the forest. So there are locations that they have identified, including the former hometown of the late governor of Kaduna State, Balabe Musa, Kaya. They were operating along that corridor, kidnapping people and moving them into the forest. Lamba, Bakura, all of those areas, the kidnapped people are moving them into the forest. And we know the bandit leaders who control these areas. We know where their camps are.
Okay, you mentioned Lamba Bakura.
Yes.
Sources also say that along that stretch of the road, there are at least 10 security points, there, and then we are still having this high spate of kidnapping and the
Yes,
like.
because the forests around that area are extensive. The forests link different states. For example, it's possible from Zamfara to link Niger State Troop Forest. It's possible. All the way to Niger. You will move, when you get to Faskari, you then go to Sabwa, Sabwa to Brinengwari. Sabwa is a local government in Kaduna State. Sabwa to Brinengwari. From Brinengwari, you are in Niger, because Brinengwari is around the border with Niger State. You will now move into Niger, where the forests are even more extensive. Because we have some forest reserves in some of these areas that I've talked about, Dogon, Karfe, all of this. We have forest reserves in those areas where they can hide people. Dajin Rugu Forest, in the Jibia area, they can hide people. You won't even know that people are there. So I don't know how God blessed us with forests that are useful. But these bandits have turned these forests to places where they keep people. And they are so extensive. You can imagine we have forests stretching all the way from Nigeria to Central African Republic. How do you police all of those forests? It's a very big task. And these boys understand the entire area. They know how to move in those forests, link different states. I was talking about my cousin that was kidnapped in Ifejumu, not far from my village. And they made them trek for 9 days. From that area, from Kogio, they ended up, from Kogi, they ended up in Akoko Edo, where ransom was eventually collected. And so,
through the same forest?
Through the forests. They took them, they made them work for 9 days. A woman made to work for 9 days. This is what we are facing. So, what we are saying is, let there be concerted efforts to deal with this threat once and for all. We have no other means by which, in my view, we can deal with this problem except through military means. And if the governor of Kaduna is saying, look, we are conducting a military campaign against these people, so be it. Kaduna as a state, they are behind everyone in terms of the school calendar. Remember, since when schools have been shut in that state? They are behind everyone. So are we going to go on like this? I mean, surely something must give.
Absolutely.
I've said before that you must concentrate on those contiguous states, block the exit points, stop them from escaping. You know, if you're attacking them in Kebbi, for example, that's a new state that they've now discovered to decide to be harassing people. Stop them from moving into Zamfara state from Kebbi. Because once they move, they will go and start harassing people in that state. You may nullify the threat here, but if you can't stop them from migrating to other places, then it's like you have wasted your ammunition.
Indeed. Of course, more needs to be done, as have been established already, not just today, but long before now. Let's move on now to talk transborder trade, which is essential for development of neighboring countries. But its growth depends on effective infrastructure like roads, rail and waterways. Now, a 1.5-kilometer bridge on the border between Nigeria and Cameroon at Ekot Mfum in the Tung local government area of Cross River State is an example of such infrastructure. While inspecting the project, Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the newly constructed double-lane bridge will facilitate free trade between Nigeria and Cameroon. The construction of this bridge, which was funded by both countries, began in April 2017 and was completed in March 2021 at the cost of $35.5 million. How does that sound to you, Sam?
Well, you need money to build infrastructures of these standards. I'm not an auditor, but who want to believe that the quoted sum was exactly what was spent. I don't want to go into the intricacies of whether it was bloated or undervalued and all that.
I think the earlier figure in some newspapers.
Yes, it was wrong. Some of them were putting $35 billion
yes,
and all that. Yes.
I've had to return it to a million instead of billion.
Yes.
That's what Nigeria makes from 3 times what Nigeria makes from selling crude oil in 3 years. I mean, that's what we make in 3 years. There's no one who will spend all that money on one bridge. It was 1.5 kilometer bridge. So clearly that was an error.
It was an error.
Right. Right. Right.
But then I was going to say that Nigeria has interesting neighbors, and we must do everything, to live cordially with our neighbors, Cameroon, Niger, Benin, and the rest of them. We don't want to spend too much time going into our political history, but the fact of the matter is that we are so strategically placed, that as a country, in terms of our diplomacy, we must do all that we can to ensure that we are at peace with our neighbors who have had a colonial history, neatly, let me put it that way, slightly different from our own experience. So ordinarily, yes, it's good to build bridges like this. It will improve trade and all that, especially in this age of the African free trade,
agreement.
Yes, that has just been after yes, and all that. So it's important. I share the sentiment that infrastructures of this kind, would help us in growing our economy, not just that of Nigeria, but that of our neighbors. So, but then you want to see this kind of efforts replicated elsewhere, not just between Nigeria and its neighbors. We know of the story of the rails and others that have been built between Nigeria and Niger Republic. There will be this temptation to say, why don't you just spend this money and all that? But I do share the sentiment very strongly too, that we need to live, we need to have very cordial relationship with our neighbors, and whatever we can do to grow our trade. We have a very large economy. It's to our advantage. Cross River is known for its agricultural endowments and all that. So the question here is, how best can we tap from this relationship? It's up to us as a country, not just building infrastructures. We must do everything to ensure that we get value from the infrastructures that we are putting in place, not just within our country, but with our neighbors.
Absolutely. Because you've already spoken to the reported sum that was said to have gulped the construction of this bridge, even though both countries reportedly financed the work done. But
it's not
humongous.
No, the sum is not humongous. Is the erroneous figure that is humongous, because no one could have spent $35 billion
dollars
even among 2 countries.
Yes, no, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
That what your country makes from crude oil in more than 3 years will be spent on just a 1.5 kilometer bridge. No, there's nowhere in the world where they will spend that kind of money on a bridge. As small, I mean, the bridge is not like even third mainland bridge. Even third mainland bridge will not go up that kind of money in today's world, So, because the fourth mainland bridge that a consortium of banks have come together to finance, it's not going to cost that much, and it's way longer, And some of the attachments to it are not even in this one. So, we have to commend the government for coming up with this infrastructure. Yes, we are co-funding it. That's where it is different to the one in Niger Republic. It's significant that this one is co-funded by Nigeria and Cameroon, but we have played our part, and I'm proud of the work that I've seen. I'm proud of the minister. I've heard people say, why don't they just let Fashola go and take over the Niger Delta ministry? Because they want to see a lot of work. I've seen even people from that zone say, why don't they just give this to Fashola, that he has so much energy and his achievements are as apparent as daylight, you know? But that's what it is. The president has given him. The president has given him his own job, and he's doing his own job well. We want to encourage him to finish the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
Absolutely.
We were told that it won't exceed this year. I hope that it will indeed not exceed this year. Then, of course, the Kano Abuja Dual Carriageway, we would like to see that one too completed, but maybe sometime in 2023, because it's a complete reconstruction that they are doing. It's not just rehabilitation of the road, complete reconstruction. And in the situation in which you have bridges on that road, you can now see why the cost has really ballooned. Because originally they were meant to simply revamp the road, but now it is reconstruction because they asked for extra lanes on both sides. So when you had extra lanes on a road that has bridges, there are serious implications
Absolutely.
in terms of the cost and
Absolutely.
even the re-engineering of the road. So we want to see more of such infrastructure, because though we are in difficult times and funds are scarce, but as I've suggested before, we need to do a lot more of PPPs. They will be funded by the private sector, private individuals, but in the fullness of time, they will be handed over to the Nigerian government after operating them, after the builders have operated them for some time. That way, the scarce resources that you can't find to award contracts and build roads of your own, the private sector will provide. And it's a win-win situation for us, because if we encourage it, we'll save money, and a lot of companies in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria will be interested in keying into this scheme. Let them come in, fix these roads, toll the roads, and after some time, they will hand those roads over to the Nigerian state. We can't find the money to freshen up decaying infrastructure in our country. Some of them roads that have been neglected for many years. You look at, as much as Fashola wants to do much more than he's doing. If you look at the budget to see what was allocated to his ministry, you just know that there's so little that he can do. But we have critical roads, including the second Niger Bridge, that the minister has told us will be ready in 2022. Let us encourage him to take his word as bond and deliver that facility in the year that he told us it will be delivered.
He has even called it the first shoots now of completed projects in the Buhari administration. But you know, what are your final words on this issue? Of course, maintenance remains a key problem for our critical infrastructure, roads and the like. But what are you expecting to see with this example?
You already said it, maintenance is a key issue, but the other issue that would interest me is contentions over
with
loans,
the international
loans and how they are applied. And I think that in spite of what anyone would say about this administration, and I'm a very harsh critic of this administration, that's the truth, but I like the fact that in terms of accountability, we've been able to, tie the loans that we are picking from international sources, both, well, including local, to projects that, that Nigerians are visible and Nigerians can identify with. We can only encourage them to do that. Accountability is key. Transparency is key. When you deliver on those, key values, not many citizens would want to ask that your head should be sent to, to the guillotine. So I want to encourage the government to do more of that in terms of accounting for whatever loans we have reached out to get from developers. Whatever. It's important that we're able to account for these monies. It's important. Nigerians want to be able to identify with these infrastructures.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We have, reached the point where we say bye-byes, and essentially our thank yous. Sami Bemere, BKO. Thank you very much for the rich contributions on the program today. Ayodele Ozugbaku is unavoidably absent, but will join the team soon. To you all out there, thank you very much for watching the program today. Don't forget to join in again tomorrow for another episode of Journalists Hangout. Don't forget to also join in on Sunday from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 for Journalists Hangout Sunday Special. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Thank you all once again for joining us on the program today. I am Kemi Foladiemo. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.